Okay, so how do you think the whitewashing of Christianity has impacted Black or African people and their ability to relate with God?
Yeah, that's another great question. I mean, and that flows really well out of what we were just talking about, because as I
Mhm.
said, I would say, one of my mentors and really spiritual father is Dr. Sung Chan Ra. And in
Mhm.
his book, The Next Evangelicalism, he calls it the Western white cultural captivity of the church, right?
Mhm.
The fact that you can have, white looking paintings of Jesus like on gift cards or on church walls or books or whatever, and nobody thinks twice about it. But if you put a Black Jesus or an Asian Jesus, people are like, whoa, that's weird, or that's
Yeah.
different. Why is that different? But a white Jesus not questioned. And again, that's just paintings. But again, it's the same kind of thing. I just saw the other day, I saw pictures of a like Hindu/Buddhist looking church. It's a Christian church in Indonesia. And if we were to see
Mhm.
something like that, we'd be like, that's weird, that's interesting. But when we see churches with steeples that are embracing Nordic and Scandinavian architectural styles, and that has now been implanted all over the world. I remember when I was in Tunisia and I was driving around and I saw this steeple, and it was a church looking European, and it was the only structure like that. So the only steeple structure in this entire city in Tunisia was a church. That is one of many ways that is saying this is a European religion. And it's the same thing. I've talked to missionaries in Korea, and they say the only buildings you will ever see in Korea that have steeples are churches. And so they are culturally standing out. They are not looking like and taking on the breath and culture and flair of the local people. And it's been tied to Western European. And we could go down the line with, again, theology, terms, with how we conceive of God. So again, as I said, what Dr. Raw calls the white Western cultural captivity of the church is the single greatest obstacle to the gospel in the world. Because again, if you're in Tunisia, or if you're in Korea, or if you're in China or India or Nigeria, or among indigenous peoples in the US or South America, if you talk to people who are not Christians and you ask them why don't they want to be a Christian, I guarantee you 99 times out of 100, it is going to have something to do with the fact that they view Christianity as a Western, white, American, whatever you want to call it, religion that is antithetical to their identity. And that's been true for Black people on the continent, in the diaspora, across the board. Yes, many of us are Christians. But again, if you talk to those of us who are not Christians, I guarantee you 99 times out of 100, it is going to have something to do with the fact that it's not going to have anything to do with the fact that people don't believe in God. I mean, you got Ta-Nehisi Coates, you got a few of us that are, say don't believe in God, but that's not very common for Black people.
Yeah, it's not. It's not.
And we understand the activity of spirits and the idea of a creator. It's not going to be because we have scientific or philosophical objections to the fact that the things that the gospel says that Jesus did could have happened, right? It's usually because, again, Christianity is associated with Western white imperialism and white supremacy, crusade, slavery, Jim Crow, and currently mass incarceration and Christian religious nationalism, all of that stuff. And we will see Christianity as just the same as that.
Right. And I think you speak to a point. I know there's been a lot of different studies or things that mentioned how there's been so many men who have left the church. And I've talked to men, especially Black men, who just feel like this doesn't apply to me. If anything, this oppresses me. And, you mentioned that earlier, where not only from the representation, but, even the way we've seen this term being used politically to promote certain ideas or to promote certain activity that benefits some and not the other. And then oftentimes it does become such a political thing, and that it has been a huge hindrance for many people. And so
That's right.
Yeah. Okay, so on to the next question.